Welcome to Tyrone Bowman Live. We have another hot topic tonight that I'm going to get into in a few seconds. Before I do, I want to take care of some business here. I found an article that was written by Peter Laffin for the Washington Examiner. The headline reads, quote, "Woke right, broke right." Learning from the self-destruction of the left. Well, I'm going to dissect this article, rip it to shreds and pieces, and commentate on it paragraph by paragraph, because this is a condemnation of the Democrats and trying to praise the Republicans. They don't even have respect for them and call them Democrats. They want to call them the left. Well, we'll see where this article goes and how my response is going to be throughout the article. Now, I want to say thank you to one of our subscribers who sent in a donation today for the building of the new studio that I've been working on, and I appreciate it. And the money went directly to my graphic designer / builder for our new studio. So yes, we're building the studio for Tyrone Bowman Live. And I'm asking you, the subscribers of this channel, an informational channel, an educational channel. This channel is a serious channel. I deal with topics and issues that most people don't want to deal with, but I deal with them fairly in an unbiased manner. Same thing with this article. I'm going to read this article from an objective point of view, and if I find anything in it that's not copacetic, then I'm going to deal with it. But as I was saying, we're building the studio, and I want to have this studio built quickly as possible because I'm tired of doing this. I'm tired of doing it. I need to get the proper equipment, the proper staff, the lighting, and everything together. So I'm asking our subscribers to Tyrone Bowman Live to help us to build the studio. All I'm asking each person to do is to send in $1. That's it. $1, and we can get the job done. So if you want to donate, simply send your dollar to Tyrone Bowman Sr. That's the name of the Cash App. Just look for my name, look for my photo, and look for the insignia, $, Pixel, PIEXEL, number 4. So thank you in advance. Now let's get into this article on tonight that I'm talking about. Quote, "It goes without saying that the left is a uniquely dangerous force, unstable and revolutionary. Leftists flaunted their joy over Charlie Kirk's murder, posting videos of themselves singing and dancing on social media. So many participated that legacy media called the backlash a revival of, quote, cancel culture, end quote, a phenomenon that by definition requires a critical mass of victims, end quote." Well, let me just jump in here and say this. First of all, the disrespect that this article already has for the Democrats. How would you like it if we called you the racist right instead of calling you the Republicans? And number two, no one was celebrating the assassination of Charlie Kirk. I condemned it with forceful terms on this channel. And over 27,000 people watched that video on that day. And I didn't see any Democrats out there singing and dancing over such a sad and unfortunate tragedy that happened in this country. What I did see in Minneapolis, when Democratic lawmakers were shot, killed, Republicans were laughing. They were dancing. They were celebrating. There was no empathy for the families. There were no words or condolences that came forth. So I'm going to get into this article. Quote, "The display was chilling but unsurprising. They were, after all, the same people who'd spent the previous decade vowing to smash and dismantle Western civilization itself, which they condemned as the product of an oppressive patriarchy. Why? Because black people demand the same civil rights that everybody else does in this country. Patriarchy, rather. Because we won't sit back and idly allow racism and bigotry and prejudice to operate under the cloak and guise of patriotism when we blatantly know exactly what it is. See, these people think that they are slick, but they're not. I pay attention. Woke means that you are consciously aware. You are alert. When you're not woke, that means you are not aware. And just because an article can be written in such a way that they think, now he calls the conservatives conservatives. He says conservatives. There's nothing conservative about the Republican Party. Conservatives must do everything in their power to defeat the left in the political realm. However, they must resist the temptation to adopt the leftist tactics, namely embracing identitarianism, weaponizing victimhood, and falsifying history. In short, they must not go woke. No, they want y'all to be stupid. They don't want you all to be woke in the Republican Party, because then you'll see the deception, the lies, the deceit, the manipulation that's going on. That's why they spoon feed y'all through social media. Until you don't read anything, just believe what we say. The precipitous downfall of the Democratic Party in recent years offers a cautionary tale. What cautionary tale? Because y'all lie, can cheat, and steal? The Democrats aren't against democracy. You all don't like the Democratic Party because the Democratic Party embraces everyone. You all are under the pretentious methods of pretending like you are bringing and embracing everyone within your tent. You condemn and you judge everybody all the time. Several contradictions mark the woke movement from its outside. It's purported to combat racism by amplifying racial differences. It promoted diversity and inclusion through discrimination and exclusion. That's a lie. That's a damned lie, and you know it. What is wrong with combating racism? What is wrong with dealing with diversity and inclusion? What is wrong with speaking out against discrimination and exclusion? America is supposed to be a tolerable nation. What the heck is the Statue of Liberty for if it's not supposed to be symbolic of embracing people? Or, of course, if the Statue of Liberty didn't embrace my people, because my people, my ancestors weren't brought to America for freedom, for liberty, and for justice. They were brought here to be slaves, toys, things to be bought and sold. That's what my people were brought here for. And so the Republican Party, the MAGA racist, bigoted Republicans, they're against inclusion, they're against diversity, and they want racism to exist within the party. That's why there's a sea of whiteness in the Republican Party. Because they think people are stupid. America was never a European nation from its inception. You can try to make it be that all you want. Black people are only 13% minority in this country, and you all seem to have a problem with it. And then when we address certain issues and concerns, you don't like it. Wokeism will never die. We're going to be consciously aware of who we are And we're going to continue to stand for what is right. I don't need the Democratic Party nor the Republican Party to have morals and integrity and principles. And there's a lot of nasty stuff that goes on behind closed doors in the Republican Party. They always condemn the homosexuals, the LGBTQ community. Yet you have the log cabin Republicans. What do you think they are? They're closeted homosexuals and lesbians. Many of them are senators, congresspeople, many of them in high places of power, and they wouldn't dare open their mouths and fight for a democratic, unified nation. So it held that women and men were fundamentally the same while simultaneously insisting that men could become women and vice versa by adopting stereotypical characteristics of the opposite sex. Who are you to determine what people should be doing behind closed doors? Why is the Republican Party so preoccupied with people's sex lives? Let's just deal with it. The LGBTQ plus community, they pay taxes like everybody else. They vote like everyone else. They contribute to society like everyone else. But you all seem to have a problem with it, but you'll take their money and then condemn them. You remind me of a bunch of preachers in these churches who condemn them, and take their money and then turn around and damn them to hell. Don't tell me that within the Republican Party, you don't have people of different genders. Yes, you do. So you're not going to write this article and think I'm not going to dissect it and deconstruct it and rip it to shreds. Yet the left successfully installed wokeness as the nation's default moral system through a sprawling regime of social coercion and censorship, made possible by its dominance of cultural institutions. Really? Let me read this paragraph. The machine operated with awesome precision. Social media exercised aggressive content, moderation, legacy news. Media amplified preferred narratives, and universities established powerful DEI bureaucracies. Corporate executives, sports leagues, and the entertainment industry aligned their brands and content with woke messaging. This total institutional dominance carried the aura of invincibility, leading many to believe the woke had won a decisive victory. Well, let's deal with that. Have you ever taken notice about Hollywood? Isn't it amazing how the MAGA Republicans, all they want to talk about is abortion, abortion, abortion. Second Amendment rights, freedom of speech. They're taking our jobs. They're taking your jobs. They, who, me, black people? What do you mean they? Since you all don't like black people in the Republican Party, then why do black people pay taxes? Since you all hate people and disdain people who don't think like y'all, walk like y'all, act like y'all, talk like y'all, then why do they pay taxes? Since you all want to condemn the LGBTQ plus community, then why do you have them within the Republican Party, but you tell them, shh, keep quiet? What's such hypocrisy? Just like in religion, hypocrisy. It's a shame because real clergymen and clergywomen who are doing an awesome job and following the teachings of the Master Jesus, they don't get the credit for the good things that they do. But a fatal flaw had been built into the worldwide view from the beginning, an all-consuming drive for moral purity that led to its eventual self-destruction. No, in the Republican Party, y'all gonna have self-destruction because you're gonna implode from within. You're gonna have rebellion from within your own party. You don't think you are, but you are. Because you used fear, intimidation. willful and blindful ignorance to keep your constituency in line. And then when any of them dare question y'all, y'all can handle it. Many have likened wokeness to fundamentalist religion, citing its missionary-like efforts to convert unbelievers, its ritualistic confessions of privilege and performative activism, its strict adherence to language, and its excommunication rituals for heretics. But wokeness, a commitment to binary thinking, provides the strongest link. The rigid dualism that casts all people as either racist or anti-racist, allies or adversaries, oppressors or oppressed, leaves little room for nuance, complexity, or good faith disagreement. Woke Dharma simply places everyone within two mutually exclusive categories: those who reside on the right side of history and those who don't. So you mean to tell me Republicans are always on the right side of history and the Democrats are on the wrong side of history? That's a bunch of BS, and you know it. Peter. Republicans, the antithesis of their whole political ideology is to condemn everybody and be hypocrites and pretentious, thinking that people cannot see through their art of deceitfulness. People are not stupid. The time has come. Midterm elections are coming up, and people are going to come out in full force. You Republicans are in for a rude awakening. That's why you're paranoid. That's why the government is shut down. That's why you keep lying. That's why you're trying to change the narrative in the media all the time, because you think people are blind. When people are hungry, homeless, unemployed, they get angry. But you embrace racism, you embrace bigotry, you embrace Nazism, you embrace the KKK, you embrace anything that will lead to a vitriolic outcome. While a powerful tool for control, binary thinking blocks critical self-examination, whereas true religion encourages introspection and humility. Fundamentalist religion equates criticism with disloyalty and allows extremism to thrive under the guise of righteousness. In fundamentalist groups, extreme views are taken as evidence of commitment and subsequently rewarded. Really? No, fundamental religion in America consists of white evangelicalism who want black people to bow down and worship them and do what they say. And we're not going to do it. You insult our heritage. You insult our ancestors. You insult our culture. You insult the way we dress. Let you like our music. You like our culture. You like the way that you like our swag, but you want to condemn us. We don't want to be a part of that party. We reject it. We reject white, racist, bigoted Christianity. We reject it. We reject worshiping a blonde-haired, blue-eyed white Jesus painted in the imagery of Michelangelo's family and friends and his gay lovers. We reject it. We're not our ancestors. And that's the problem. You want to condemn us and judge us and put us down and try to elevate yourself above everybody else. But it's not going to happen. The mindset influenced the left to adopt a, quote, no enemies to my left, end quote, political footing during the woke takeover of the Democratic Party. Extremism became a badge of moral purity, fostering a competitive environment among leftists to see who could champion the most radical stance, outshine rivals in performative outrage, and signal the deepest allegiance. Let's talk about how Trump came into power. Racism and bigotry caused Trump to win in 2016 because they were outraged with the fact that a black man became president of the United States of America and he won 2 presidential elections. What? You can't refute it. Revenge, retribution. Let me tell you something about the appalling silence of so-called good people in the world. When Hitler was in power in Nazi Germany, it was the appalling silence of good people that caused the extermination of people. Good so-called righteous people who went along with what is wrong. Any nation that sits back and ignores righteousness in its true form is headed for self-destruction. If the Republican Party was a so-called conservative party, it would embrace all people and not just a select group of people. That's why we don't want to be bothered with y'all. You have all the power you want. We don't care. Whatever. Rioting and violent destruction of property, such as the nation witnessed in major cities following the death of George Floyd, were reframed as righteous catharsis. Redistributive economic policies and anti-capitalist rhetoric became atonement for historical theft, with the wealthy vilified and markets condemned. It was the greedy billionaires who bankrupt the nation, and he put a black man in power to rescue the economy. The first thing Obama did was bail out the failing auto industry and the banking industry. And Obama didn't do all too much for black folk, okay? We didn't benefit too much from his presidency the entire time he was in office. That's why I can't be a politician, because I'd cuss all y'all out. And I'd tell you, you didn't elect me, and I'm going to do what I said I'm going to do, and I'm going to help my people, whether you all agree or not. Who are my people? The poor, the sick, the suffering, the hungry, the homeless, those who have been left behind, irregardless of race, creed, color, ethnicity, cultural differences, or sexuality. Those are my people. Aggressive sex change measures for confused children became a sacred right of liberation, with any hesitation branded as hate. The phrases, quote, defund the police, end quote, and, quote, abolish ICE were elevated by party leaders as moral imperatives. Abortion was no longer tolerated as safe, legal, and rare, but shouted and celebrated. Who caused abortion to come into existence in 1973 anyway? Look up Roe versus Wade and look at the truth story behind it and why abortion became legal. You want to blame the Democrats for the inception of abortion in America. Read the whole story. Check it out. Nothing was out of bounds nor deemed too far, and no one spoke out either out of enthusiasm for the cause of fear of being accused of standing on the wrong side of history. I'll tell you who's on the wrong side of history right now. It certainly isn't the Democrats. History will judge these Republicans. Historians will write horribly about y'all. The annals of history will never forget what you all have done to this nation. Just like you said, you're going to be rewarded for the big, beautiful bill. No, you're not. People are going to come out by the untold millions and show you exactly how they feel about you. Meanwhile, the public grew steadily more defiant in response to these increasingly extreme positions. The Democratic platform became so absurd that normal people, parents, workers, lifelong liberals, could no longer remain silent. The woke spell over the nation had broken. With the aid of strong conservative leaders, especially Elon Musk. Really? Is that what you call him? Whose purchase of Twitter shattered the less monopoly on digital speech. The non-woke rose up to overthrow the work regime, re-electing President Donald Trump with record levels of support from oppressed communities, especially Hispanics. Oppressed who? White people have never been oppressed. That's why it's in quotation marks. They've never been in slavery. They've never been oppressed. They've never been marginalized. The Hispanics joined and voted against Kamala Harris out of hate, because most Hispanics hate black people anyway. What? Yeah, I said it. I'm with them all the time. I see the hate in their face and in their eyes in my neighborhood. Personally, I don't give a damn. I don't care if they never talk to me. Doesn't matter, because I don't need their approval. And now they're moaning and groaning and crying all over the place that we're sorry we voted. No, don't be sorry. You voted your conscience. Be man and woman enough to stand behind your vote. So I don't want to hear that white people are being oppressed. These little code words. White people have never been oppressed in South Africa. They've never been discriminated against. The Democrats' no enemies to my left strategy worked powerfully for a time, but ultimately steered the party into the political wilderness where it remains. That's what you all think. There will be a resurgence of the Democratic Party. You know, you Republicans lost your way for a long time in this nation for being on the wrong side of everything all the time. I have to take a break in a minute, ladies and gentlemen. You know, Republicans have done some dumb stuff in this nation and then tried to justify it. Is everybody in the Democratic Party righteous and right? No, they're not. Is everybody in the Republican Party righteous and right? No, they're not. I can't even consciously think about voting for somebody. Gotta take a quick break. Tyrone Bowman Live. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. See, we're having this conversation tonight because this article that I found was written by a pro-MAGA Republican. That's a racist and a bigot. And that's why I'm talking about this tonight. Right now, live and in living color. Because the conversation has to be had. Now, when they start being objective with their political ideology, and they have a platform that will be for all people, then I'll talk about them in a positive light. Fairness is fairness. Right is right. You know, I have on this platform, I lay the Democrats out more than I do the Republicans. Because I want the Democrats to get a spine. I want the Democrats to be on the right side with the right issues, with the right platform. I want to see Democrats stop doing stupid stuff and embrace things that matter. You can be what you want to be, but you don't need to put it in everybody's face 24 hours a day. Now, there's another part of this article I want to get into. I'm going to start it now, but I'm going to have to take a quick break. So now listen to this. Elements of the ascendant new right have drawn comparisons with the woke leftists. Now he's condemning his own people, who commandeered and ultimately destroyed the Democratic Party, with some using the term woke to describe the faction. It's a usual catcall, but imperfect for a few reasons. You all have not destroyed the Democratic Party. They just lost an election. You act like the Democratic Party was totally decimated because they lost an election. You all will lose many elections in the forthcoming years. You win some, you lose some. That's the nature of the game and the nature of the beast. It doesn't mean that you're not viable. It doesn't mean that you're not important. All these the demagogues that they have in the Republican Party are going to fall off their thrones because they think they're quote unquote smarter than the average bear. And individuals have a right to avert their conscience. I've said that over and over again. I don't care who people vote for. That's their business. And make no mistake about it. I'm telling you now, your Republicans are going to be shocked because they're going to go in that voting booth and they're going to vote Democrat or any other party but for y'all. Because you think, pride goes before destruction, quote, close quote. Your pride is going to cause you to lose the Congress. Your pride is going to cause you to lose the Senate because you don't care about everyday people. Tyrone Bowman live. I do have to take this break, ladies and gentlemen. I'll be right back. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Tyrone Bowman live. I'm dissecting an article from the Washington Examiner. Let me just say this in all fairness about the Republicans. There are some decent men and women of God. Pardon me. There are some decent men and women within the Republican Party. But the problem is they're afraid to do what's right. They're afraid to speak up. They're afraid to oppose the political power hub. They're afraid to stand up for their constituents. They're afraid to speak out when they should. They want to play it safe, thinking that they can easily get reelected by telling a half truth. Let's deal with the very grim reality of what's happening in America before I finish this article. Homelessness and hunger. Thanksgiving is coming up. Where are people supposed to get money from if they're constantly being fired from their jobs and being laid off? How are they supposed to provide for their families? I'm talking about those who really need it. I'm not talking about those who abuse the system, because you got too many welfare pimps and welfare prostitutes who take advantage of the system and they use it for destructive purposes. They should be prosecuted. They should be called out. They should be signaled out. Because you get some women and stuff, when they get the child support money, all the money goes on them and nothing for the children. They get the food stamps and the money and they spend it on their man, the liquor store, the hair store. And the children end up with some cheap, rotten snacks. That group should be signaled out. But what about the mothers and single fathers who really need SNAP benefits, who really need that help? What about the women who really need WIC, women, infants, and children? What about them? What about people who are working close to 80 hours a week and they're dead tired when they come home and they still don't have enough money to pay the gas, the electric, the rent, the mortgage? The more they make, the more that they take out in taxes. They're so busy trying not to go under until they're exhausted from work all the time. By the time they get off on Friday and blink their eyes, it's Monday morning. What about those who work in the health home care business for basically little to nothing, taking care of people? What about the inflationary prices of gas, food, produce? Don't nobody want to go down to Whole Foods all the time, and half the time they're selling generic stuff anyway. The agriculture industry has been shot. All because. So when someone is consciously awakened and those political commentators or talking heads on TV don't necessarily like what's being said, they want to try to demonize them. Well, demonize me. I could care less. I'm still going to be independent thinking, speaking, acting, and doing. That's why I could never work for corporate America. Because you won't tell me to go sit in my cubicle like I'm a child. It won't work. So what are you going to do? Go along with stuff that you know that's wrong? And I'll say this, then I'm going to get back to the article. Some of you all are not going to feel until it comes to your community, your city, your town, your neighborhood, your country club. When your stocks start going down, when your investors start pulling out of your corporations, when you can't afford to pay those hefty loans to keep up that affluent lifestyle, when you lose that 6-figure digit salary from that secure job that's not so secure anymore, when you can't buy all those expensive clothes and go on all those expensive trips, and they quote unquote start downsizing, they take all your talent and your gifts and your abilities, and then they say, you know what, we don't need you anymore. Good luck. So keep thinking that it's just a few group of people. That's why I talk this way on this platform, because I'm tired of the racism and bigotry and the vitriol coming from all the other networks all the time. So touche, right back at you. Now let's talk about the Republicans. First, quote, this new right bloc holds nothing close to the institutional power held by the left during its peak of dominance. The rightward vibe shift in our institutions following Trump's reelection, though substantial, settled in the political middle. While universities have responded to public backlash over rampant wokeism by scaling back DEI departments, they've largely retained leftist bias in curriculum content and faculty makeup. Legacy news outlets have only tackled to the middle in certain respects, such as the hiring of Barry Weiss at CBS News in corporate advertising, while less blatantly woke remains aligned with progressive social values. The cultural playing field is perhaps more even today, but not tilted toward conservatives in any meaningful way, any meaningful sense. What do you mean, got to be tilted? You mean toward white folk? Since when have white people been discriminated against in America? I want to know when. Who discriminated against them? Who? I've been studying history since I was a child. So who in America has discriminated against white people? When I was a child, all the politicians were white. Every last one of them. Corrupt, lying, thieving, whoring, adultering, white politicians. In New York City, y'all forgot about the reign of Mayor Daley? He ruled with an iron fist. Harold Washington became the first black mayor in Chicago. And you couldn't handle him because he wouldn't bow down to y'all. And that's a stipulated fact, Jack. Ebony Magazine was the most powerful black publishing company in America. And what is it now? Digital. Because they didn't know what to do with it when the reins was handed over to them. How do white people come in ownership of a black-owned, self-independent corporation that was founded by John H. Johnson when he hocked his mother's furniture and pawned it for $500 because in 1945, white banks would not lend money to any black company? Don't play with me. You darn right I love my people. I'm not a white man, I'm a black man in America. I can work with anybody, but you're not going to degrade my people and tell us we're nothing to nobody and just to uplift your people. You got the same rottenness in your own populace. Too many of the universities have caved in. And you wonder why people are going to HBCUs, because they're tired of y'all. Look at the NFL. The NFL used to be a all-white male-dominated industry. Same thing with the NBA. See, you all don't want to talk about the Wilt Chamberlains and the Bill Russells and Roger Wilkins and all these other great black players who broke the color barrier. You don't want to talk about Jim Brown. These people were paid little or nothing. You don't want to talk about Jackie Robinson. You don't want to talk about the old Negro leagues where the greatest black baseball players of all time existed. You don't want to talk about that. You don't want to talk about the Black Poets Society that used to be up in Harlem and Langston Hughes and James Baldwin and all these great prolific writers and thinkers were. How did Harlem go from being all black to all white? How did it happen? You don't want to talk about the great invention of the jazz and blues. And I give the late Benny Goodman credit because he was a personified musician, arranger, and writer. I told you I am fair with people. Benny Goodman, I still listen to some of his stuff to today. Great individual. I'm talking about the issue of fairness. That's all I'm talking about. You got to be fair with everybody. You can't just have one group of people pitted against another group of people for the sake of political solvency. Wake up in America. See, the race baiting game is still being played politically. And people keep falling, quote unquote, for the okey doke all the time. When will they learn? Seriously, when will people learn? There have been great tragedies in white America that should have never happened. Oh, yes, I've read about them. Horrible tragedies that occur. The prisons are filled with people. In some instances, justly, they belong there. The demonization of police, it's got to stop. No, I'm serious about that. It has to stop. Law enforcement, when they're doing their job in the right manner, they should be praised for the good work that they do. Who do people call when they get in trouble? Everybody in law enforcement is not corrupt. Who do you call when the house is on fire? You call the fire department. You don't care what color the person is, as long as they can put out that fire. You can cuss them out later. Get the fire out. So, listen to what the writer of this article says. Number 2. Second, the descriptor woke is imprecise. Notably, the group's racial insensitivity to racism is the inverse of the left suffocating hypersensitivity. The ultimate aims of the woke left and so-called woke right are detrimentally opposed, save their shared hostility toward Israel. First of all, let's get this straight. Who told you that Democrats hate Israel? That is a damned lie coming from Republicans. I'll say it again. That is a damned lie coming out of the mouths of lying Republicans. Multitudes of Democratic administrations have given Israel billions of dollars. President Barack Obama gave them billions of dollars. So this thing that the Democrats hate Israel and only the Republicans love Israel, that's a lie. They get love from both sides. They get support from both sides. No one said that Israel does not have the right to exist as a sovereign nation. The world is big enough for each nationality and culture and ethnicity to survive and live. Annihilation of a people is not cool. Everybody has a right to live. Even America. So I'm tired of hearing the vitriol come out of the mouths of lying Republicans saying that the Democrats hate Israel. That is a lie. And they know it. They're pathological liars when it comes to many things. And the more you pathologically lie, you subliminally project an imagery of that lie in the mouths of the people you want to continuously vote for you. But the new right's open embrace of many woke tenets, including the embrace of identitarianism and grievance politics, and above all, its tendency toward binary thinking, is a dark harbinger for a Republican Party hoping to retain power long enough to meaningfully reshape the nation. Really? So that's all you care about? Reshaping the nation with your ideology? Guess what, Republicans? You're not going to be in power forever. Administrations come, administrations go. Republicans have it for a while, the Democrats have it for a while. And it goes on and on and on. Now, I'm going to tell you something now. One day, get mad if you want to, but this is a touchdown. One day, the Republican is going to nominate somebody black in their party. It's coming. It's going to happen. The Democrats did it. The Republicans are going to do it. Let me say that again. Touchdown. I wish I had some special effects. Somebody in the comment section, put some special effects up for me. It's going to happen. It's coming. I've already envisioned it. Republicans are going to nominate somebody black, and that person's going to win the presidency. Whether you like it or not, it's coming to the Republican Party as well. The polarization of keeping the races separated. Y'all better wake up. You want to be in an isolated state, like they got the whites only state down in Arkansas? Go live there. Y'all can fight it out among yourselves. And they got problems of their own, from what I understood. You know, how was it that the Republican was the party that championed freedom and justice? And the Democrat Party, they were the racists and the bigots. What? You don't believe me? Go look it up for yourself. The KKK was born through the Democratic Party. So how did the Republican Party of Lincoln go from being champions for justice and truth to racism and bigotry and prejudice? And how did the Democrats go from being racist, prejudiced, and bigoted to champion the disenfranchised? You know, there was a senator, I think he's passed on now. His name was Senator Byrd. He used to be a KKK Grand Wizard. And he was in the Democratic Party. I tell it the way it is. Not for what I think it should be. Just like there are people from all over the world who watch my channel. And I respect everybody who has their own right, his or her own opinion, as they come through the comment section, whether I agree or disagree. That ain't the point. That's why I don't censor anybody over here. This ain't X. This ain't some of those other platforms, and the host got Teflon. No, not Teflon. That's not the right word. They got feather feelings. Can't take nothing. Every time somebody says something they don't like, they fall apart, block them, and all that kind of dumb stuff. I'm a grown man. You can't break me. I was born and raised in the hood, baby. I came up through racism. I came up during the mob era. I came up in the city where they fought and cussed and raised hell 24 hours a day. I grew up hard. My mother didn't pamper me or sugarcoat me or none of that crap. Grow up in politics. If you're going to be in politics and you can't take the heat, get out of it. If you can't, people are not going to like you. You're not going to be liked by everybody. You're not going to be welcomed by everybody. But stand your ground. A mid-October Political article that exposed a group text message thread involving chapter leaders of the organization Young Republicans underscored the extent of the problem. The leaked chat's blatant racism shocked the nation and sparked intense debate over whether it is ever acceptable for a conservative to disavow anyone on the right. They wouldn't listen. It didn't shock the nation. They were shocked because they got exposed to the nation. They were saying the N-word in the chat all the time and saying everything all the time. Because it goes on in the party every single day. And there was no condemnation coming from the leaders within the Republican Party about what was said. You know why? Because they spoke for them. They advocate for them. That's how the way they feel behind closed doors. You don't think they calling black folk the N-word behind closed doors? But one day, you're going to slip up. You're going to get caught. Because you and your stupid self, you're going to say it on live TV. And they won't be able to edit it out. Because what's in your mouth, what's in your heart, will come out of your mouth eventually. So it wasn't a debate. We know this stuff goes on all the time. It's nothing new. Vice President J.D. Vance, a favorite of the new right, wasted no time denouncing the denouncers, saying on Real America's Voice that Republicans who condemned the chat, including Representative Elsie Stefanik, a Republican from New York, House Speaker Mike Johnson, Republican from Louisiana, and the Young Republicans National Federation itself, should, quote, grow up, end quote, and focus on the real issues, end quote. Really? How about this? How about if they would have said the same thing against the Jews? I said, how about those same people if they would have said the same horrible things against the Jews? Do you think he would have said that? No, he would not have. It's okay when you say it about black people and other minorities, because the ADL, the Anti-Defamation League, will rally its base and make sure you never become president. That's why we need the Anti-Black League. So when you attack us, we have the resources and the money to combat it. We are not a helpless people. We're not a hopeless people. People want you to think like that. And young black men and women, get yourselves together and take your rightful place in this world. Stop acting like buffoons and idiots. Bring forth the dignity that your ancestors had, even when they were enslaved. Get yourselves together. Stop all this foolishness about cussing each other out, acting stupid and buffoonish on Instagram and TikTok 24 hours a day. The young, decent black men and women who are in school and doing things, they don't get any credit. So somebody in my generation has to tell y'all, get your asses together. Get it together. Because if you don't get it together, they're going to continue to lock you up and put you in prison for the rest of your lives. And you're going to be brought before judges who are heartless and cold and cruel, law and order. And they'll make sure you never see the light of day again. Get it together. I don't care if y'all don't like this. It doesn't matter. I'm talking to my people tonight. They need to hear somebody give it to them raw, in their own language that they understand. All this, the fluidity of words and being proper and everything, they're not trying to get with it. When I go to the barbershop, they keep it real. This is what Vance said, quote, don't focus on what kids say in group chats. The reality is that kids do stupid things, especially young boys. They tell edgy, offensive jokes. That's what kids do, end quote. Really? They weren't kids. They were grown behind men. Let those quote unquote kids that you say they were, let them say the same things about other groups of people and watch what happens. The Daily Wire's Matt Walsh, another prominent they call it new right figure, whatever, praised Vance's reaction, calling the vice president typically excellent on this issue, while comparing that the right doesn't stick together. That's our biggest problem by far. Conservatives are quick to denounce each other, jump on dog piles, disavow, attack their allies. That's a lie. They stick together come hell or high water. So who exactly would Walsh have preferred that conservatives stick together with? And what would Vance have had conservatives disregard as youthful folly? Here are a few highlights among dozens of examples. Quote, bro is at a chicken restaurant ordering his food. Would he like some watermelon and Kool-Aid with that? Said William Hendricks, Kansas, young Republican's vice chairman of a black person. He went on to use the N-word 12 times and wrote that he was drawn to Missouri's Young Republican organization because Missouri doesn't like, that's short for another derogatory term, begins with the F. If I go to the zoo, if I wanted to watch monkey play ball, said Peter Gonta, former chairman of the New York State Republicans of the NBA, he also referred to black people as watermelon people. White folk eat more watermelon people than black people. There's nothing wrong with eating watermelon or chicken. Just like y'all eat, some white folk like to eat crackers and cheese and celery all the time. So what is the problem? What is the issue? You talk like this in the safety and confines of your own group. Because you know if you come into the hood talking like that, talking recklessly like that out of your mouth, you'll pay for it. That's the reason why we don't respect y'all. Because this is a sentiment of your heart. Multiple members type, quote, 1488, end quote, a term combining the white supremacist slogan, we must secure the existence of our people and a future for white children with Hail Hitler, end quote. Now that's child's play, referencing Adolf Hitler. Do you know the atrocities that this man committed in the world? And in Germany, they're still trying to forget about the atrocities that occurred. The name Hitler is Ichabod. But then you got the new alt-right that want to resurrect him from the dead in the consciousness of their minds. And never forget this, everything that Hitler did in Nazi Germany, he did it legally in the context of the law. Several million black people suffered at the hands of Hitler and other minorities as well. The Holocaust was horrible. It should have never happened, and it should never happen again. Slavery was horrible. It should have never happened, and it should never happen again. Japanese internment was horrible. It should have never happened, and it should never happen again. Oh, I do my homework very well. Their defense of the indefensible. Wait a minute. Right. Their defense. Were these young Republican leaders mostly peaceful Nazis? One wonders. Their defense of the indefensible breathed life into the political story, with backlash from the new right against those who denounced the chat becoming a bigger story in itself. This dynamic seems likely to play out whenever right-wing extremism goes public in the future. The rising influence of extremist figures and their rhetoric, from Nick Fuentes to that promoted by Tucker Carlson, means GOP sympathetic voters will often be focused or forced to choose between condemning extremism and maintaining political loyalty. Just this week, Carlson interviewed avowed Hitler enthusiast Fuentes on his massively popular podcast. During the interview, Carlson remarked that, quote, Christian Zionists, end quote, such as Senator Ted Cruz and Israeli ambassador Mike Huckabee had fallen under the hypnotic spell of Jews. What the hell is wrong with Tucker Carlson? What is his problem? See, when you don't have people calling people out on their mess, they can continue to get away with it. And then they want to say stuff like this. Well, they took my words out of context. You have to hear the whole thing. We don't need to hear the whole thing because nothing was taken out of context. Quote, I've known personally, I've seen be seized by this brain virus, he said to a nodding Fuentes. They're not Jewish. They're Christian Zionists. I dislike them more than anyone, end quote. That's what Tucker Carlson said out of his racist mouth. Is this who Walsh expects conservatives to unite with under the threat of excommunication? But conservatives should never unite with sentiments like those expressed by Carlson, who continues to headline Turning Point USA events, and Fuentes, who is among the most hateful figures to ever cross into the conservative mainstream, because it's wrong to unite with evil, and because doing so will lead to the ruin of the conservative movement and pave a direct back to power for the woke left. How about this? How about there's no extremism in any party? Shouldn't be in the Democratic Party, shouldn't be in the Republican Party. At least the politics of old, regardless of what their personal prejudices were, like President Woodrow Wilson was one of the most racist presidents America has ever had. And in order for a nation to come together, and in order for a nation not to implode from within and self-destruct, you have to embrace leadership and make it work for the betterment of all people. Whether we disagree or agree on political ideology. When you live in a nation, there's enough room for everybody to be wherever they want to be. If you want to be a separatist, go to your separatist ways. You want to be a racist, go to your racist ways. You want to be an inclusionist, then live in a community where everybody can get along. See, you don't have to like me, and I don't have to like you, but we can be civil toward each other with mutual respect because we're humans. That's the bottom line. And this article, again, was written by, let me get this name, by Peter Laffin for the Washington Examiner. You have a conscience, men and women, use it. Use your conscience. Think for yourself. Become consciously aware. And I'll tell you something. At some point in time, the Republicans get their act together. I mean, really get their act together and act like a conservative party for real. And don't just blindly think people are going to follow you. The Democratic Party has taken the black vote for granted for so long until black folk don't really care no more because they've gotten nothing for their vote from the Democratic Party. What? Eventually, and I'll go on record to say this, eventually the Republican Party will get its act together. They will come to their senses one day. Might not be today, and it might not be tomorrow, but they'll get it together. But for right now, the midterm elections are coming up, and they're going to have to pay the price. You got a major election coming up in New Jersey. You're going to elect a man or woman. You have a major district attorney's race coming up in Philadelphia on the 4th. Dugan or Krasner. All around the country, pretty soon, the elections are going to be taking place. And for those of you who are in politics, who you pledge your allegiance to? To your constituency? To the Constitution? Or to a person? Make up your mind. Don't you know that divine allegiance and loyalty is nothing more but betrayal? Because you can't be loyal to yourself. You can't be loyal to your party. You can't be loyal to your constituency. So nobody wants you in the end. People will respect the person for standing their ground, win, lose, or draw. And I'll say this in close. A person who is in court with a lawyer will respect their lawyer if they just put up a fight, whether the case is won or lost. At least get in the fight and argue for your client. There's a lot of stuff going on in the nation. Pray for people over in Haiti, in Cuba, Bermuda, Barbados, and other parts because Hurricane Melissa is still raging. All right, this is going to be our last video for today. Thank you all for watching. Appreciate it. I ain't never grown no beard. You can forget that. I don't do stuff because you say do it. I love President Trump. Hey, listen, I don't dislike the president and I don't hate him. I may disagree with him on some issues, but I don't hate him. What do you think my gender is, you jackass? Yeah, straight up, because you're a buffoon. Yeah, that's right. You're an a-hole. That's exactly what you are. I said it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we out for today. Never surrender. Never quit.